Good morning. Thank you all for coming this morning. This is the first of several news conferences we'll be doing across southern and central Nebraska today. Today I'm announcing my support for 7 amendments to the Constitution of the United States. I'm calling these proposed amendments the Restore America Amendments. Our country is going in the wrong direction. There are many reasons for this. Our elected officials in Washington appear to be incapable of restraining federal spending. Congress repeatedly imposes unfunded mandates on the states. Congress has turned much of the lawmaking function over to the bureaucrats. Many members of Congress lose touch with the American people when they're in Washington too long. Court decisions have overturned a number of traditional values. As Nebraska's next United States Senator, I intend to champion the following 7 amendments to the Constitution of the United States, which I am calling the Restore America Amendments. The amendments are a balanced budget amendment, an Empower the States amendment, a Reclaim the Legislative Power amendment, a Term Limits amendment, an Abortion as a Legislative Issue amendment, a Marriage amendment, and a Protect the American Flag amendment. The Balanced Budget Amendment. The vast federal budget deficits of recent years are a serious threat to the economic future of our nation. It has to stop. The Nebraska Constitution requires a balanced budget each year. The time has come for an amendment to the Constitution of the United States that will require a balanced budget amendment and also require supermajorities to increase taxes or the debt limit. I support a proposed amendment to the Constitution of the United States that would do the following. Number 1, it would require the Congress and the President to submit a balanced budget each year. This requirement could only be waived by supermajority votes of the Congress or during a declared war. 2, a supermajority of 2/3 of both houses of Congress would be required for any new tax or increases in the statutory rate of tax. 3, a supermajority of 3/5 of both houses of Congress would be required to increase the debt limit, except only a majority would be required for a fiscal year during a declared war. 4, federal spending would be limited to 18% of gross domestic product. 5, the amendment would prohibit the courts from ordering revenue increases to enforce the amendment. The Empower the States Amendment. The Congress of the United States repeatedly imposes unfunded mandates and burdensome regulations on the states and the people. In the original Constitution, a check on the power of the federal government was to come from United States senators who were appointed by state legislatures. Under the 17th Amendment, U.S. senators are elected directly by the people and have no particular incentive to check the power of the federal government. In order to empower the states to serve as a check and balance on the federal power, I support a constitutional amendment that will allow the legislatures of 2/3 of the states, by resolution, to repeal any federal law or regulation. The Reclaim the Legislative Power Amendment. Heavy-handed federal regulations are severely damaging our economy. The time has come to take the power out of the hands of the bureaucrats and restore the power to the Congress of the United States. As Nebraska's next United States Senator, I will support a constitutional amendment that will require a vote of the Congress of the United States before any new major federal rule or regulation can go into effect. The Term Limits Amendment. When elected officials spend too much time in Washington, they often lose touch with the American people. That's why, as Nebraska's next United States Senator, I will support a constitutional amendment to limit the terms of senators to 2 terms and members of Congress to 3 terms. Whether that amendment passes or not, if the people of Nebraska send me to the United States Senate, I will voluntarily limit my service to 2 terms. I want to go to Washington to serve my country, not climb the political power ladder. Abortion is a legislative issue amendment. For most of our nation's history, the issue of abortion was dealt with through the legislative process. The authors of the Constitution and its amendments never conceived or intended to create a constitutional right to abortion. Despite that, the Supreme Court of the United States created such a right out of whole cloth. Far from resolving the abortion issue, the court's decision has inflamed the issue. It is time to return the question of the protection of human life of unborn human life to our elected representatives. As Nebraska's next United States Senator, I will support an amendment to the Constitution of the United States that will provide that there is no federal constitutional right to an abortion. The Marriage Amendment. Until recent days, marriage in the United States of America and throughout the history of Western civilization has been understood to be the union of a man and a woman. The nuclear family has been the building block of civilization. It is the institution for the care and socialization of the children of each succeeding generation. Those who wish to dramatically revise the institution of marriage, contrary to the history of Western civilization, bear a heavy burden of persuasion. I am not persuaded of the need or the wisdom for such a dramatic change. As Nebraska's next United States Senator, I will support an amendment to the Constitution of the United States that will define marriage as the union of one man and one woman for all purposes of federal and state law. The Protect the American Flag Amendment. The American flag is a symbol of our nation. It stands for freedom. It covers the coffins of those who have given their lives in service to our nation. It is the subject of our national anthem. It is a symbol of our national union. It is a part of our Pledge of Allegiance. It is a symbol of patriotism and national pride. For most of our nation's history, laws prohibited desecration of the American flag. Then the United States Supreme Court intervened. There are thousands of ways to protest the policies of the government of the United States and the officials thereof. The desecration of the American flag need not be one of them. As Nebraska's next United States Senator, I will support an amendment to the Constitution to authorize the government of the United States and of the several states to prohibit by law the desecration of the American flag. These amendments, if passed by Congress and ratified by the states, will not resolve every issue facing our nation, nor are they intended to. They will restrain federal spending, provide a check and balance on federal power, reduce federal regulation of businesses and individuals, limit the terms of senators and members of Congress, prevent judicial lawmaking on the issue of abortion, affirm the traditional definition of marriage, and enable our elected representatives to preserve, protect, and defend the American flag. Our founding fathers understood that big government threatens our freedom. They wrote a constitution to limit the power of the federal government in order to protect our freedom. Today, new limits on the power of the federal government are needed to restore America and preserve freedom for future generations. That is the purpose of these Restore America amendments. That concludes my remarks.